Okay, this is from the control tower. They say that this stuff has got to stop. If it continues, you will not race next week.
Who are you talking to? Just everybody?
And welcome to another edition of Flashback to the Track. As always, you're listening to James and Mark. Mark, how you doing?
I'm well, James. A little tired. Had a very long couple of weekends and lots of driving, but I'm home now. And I slept in my own bed last night, which was excellent.
Yeah, after a couple weeks on the road myself, it was nice to get back in my bed because you know why? My bed feels the best on my back.
Does. Hotel beds are nice though. Like I had a king bed both times and man, I'm not a king, but I was comfortable. So
it's much more comfortable than the front seat of a Subaru WRX STI. That's stiff as heck. But you know what might help with that and bring maximum strength relief is Blue Emu, Mark.
It's true.
When after a few nights of that kind of hard sleeping, Blue Emu was great to have in my regimen of recovery.
It just helps with those minor joint things.
You know what, Mark? Best thing, it don't stink. Just rub it on, let it do its thing, get back, go drive. And you know what? I don't have no stinky area on me. It feels just cool, feels nice, and I'm just driving again,
Yeah, I had a tube of the maximum strength with me on the road, used it several times. So always have it in my camera bag as well. Take it with me everywhere I go. So
it's always in the suitcase, man. You never leave home without it. It's like a Amex. Today, Mark, we'll look at the 2005 Sylvania 300, but asterisk, we're going to look at the incidents from the 2005 Sylvania 300.
Well, look at that slide there. Busch in the wall to the back. Oh, a spin on the racetrack. Casey Kane looks like he got turned.
Yeah, hi back there. Yeah, I'm fine.
yeah, there's a lot of them. So it was like we could just make a podcast just about these incidents. So that's what we decided to do.
Mark, first question. Did you see the 2005 Sylvania 300 live?
I did watch it on TV. I remember watching it. It's a race that will live in infamy in my mind as a fan of a certain driver. So what channel does that come on in Canada? Good question. Probably would have been on TSN. Be my guess.
So just TSN just took the straight TNT.
Yeah, they do. They usually do. Usually get Fox, NBC. It's all on TSN.
So is it weird? Because TSN is ESPN of Canada. Is it weird to see Witchblade being advertised during the race?
We get Canadian commercials. Well, yeah, when they do the live reads and stuff. Yeah, it's weird because you're we also don't have half the sponsors on any of the cars either. So,
well, yeah. I don't have Quick Wick, lighter.
Quick,
stuff, but I see those ads all the time when I'm watching a race. And I'm like, dang, Quick Wick's
guaranteed to start your fire. Quick, you want to send us some money?
It's a good logo.
We send you my digits. Commercial could use some work. We're creatives. We can help you out. Okay.
I have a +1 in my digits, so that might help you.
They liked one of my tweets once, so we're halfway there.
I'll be honest, I did not see this race live, but thanks to the power of content, especially during the period of individual cable channels, we had Speed Channel just throwing highlights of this race all night because there was Speed News NASCAR edition. Then you had a NASCAR news report. Then you had Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain. Then you had
they re-aired the race.
They re-aired the race that night. Yeah, that night they re-aired it. So I had all of that content to consume. Then I got to rewatch the race. Mm-hmm. And this was quite something to behold. I don't know. I think the biggest thing is if you focus on the storylines, it looks like more of an event than it really was. I feel like there's just we were kind of talking about it. There was a lot of moments that happened, but it kind of blows the race out of proportion Like it just
takes away from the fact that it is a very good race.
It is a good race, really good race.
But you don't remember it for that. Like you don't remember who won. You just remember all the acts, all the incidents that happened.
Yeah, I mean, we might tell you who won, but like, why? You should watch it because like the incidents are worthwhile anyways. But to that point, it also just it makes the race worth talking about in more than one breath. So it does add value to this event. So to get it started, we're going to talk about exactly where this event is. That's New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And not only is it at New Hampshire, Mark, it's race 2 in New Hampshire, meaning because we know what this means because it was a constant thing for a period of time. It's the first race of the chase, man. That's right. For a number of years, that was like stop number 1. It's like race stop number 1 for the chase. Like chase starts here at New Hampshire. And it kind of made New Hampshire cool. Like it was a little boring and dull to me at times. Just like,
those Gen 4 cars are great on flat tracks though. They always put on an entertaining race. It's
so narrow. It's hard to pass, man. Track position's key. Like I like a good strategy race from crew chiefs, but beyond that, it's a gigantic hockey rink. That's a racetrack.
True. But I enjoy it. It's kind of like a larger Martinsville. And I found all like the road course guys usually did pretty well there because they always talk about, the turn is like a road course, like sweeper, So it's a good track for my boy, Robbie Gordon. It's where he won his first cup race as well.
Oh, so, you forgot your real boy, Patrick Carpanier. He won a pole there, didn't he?
He did win the pole there. I don't think he led any laps. Pretty sure he was out of the top 10.
One?
I'm pretty sure he's out of the top 10, like the first 20 laps. But yeah, Patrick Carpanier, great Canadian race car driver driving the Napa Pieces d'Auto car.
That was the Valvoline Sears car, if I'm not mistaken.
It was the Valvoline Sears car. Yes, it was.
Auto care. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways. But it was a fun race, like long green flag runs. Obviously, we talked about flat corners and what's it have banking wise?
I feel like it's,
I think.
Oh, I feel like it's like 10 or less.
12 maybe. Yeah. It's not a lot. So we don't know if this is the period where they had PJ1 on the track, like secret PJ1. They put sealer on the track. So when you see a car like do a burnout, like yellow smoke would come up. You see that at Richmond a lot.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not sure if this was that era, but they did repave the track. So it has just allowed the grooves to be a bit wider. So you get some side-by-side racing. But you'll see in this race, there's really only one preferred groove, which is the bottom. So
it has like a variable degrees of banking from 7 to 12 degrees. So it has quite a bit of banking throughout the corner. And then on the straightaways, it's banked.
Variable banking was all the rage in the mid 2000s. Sorry, progressive banking, as they called it. It was all the rage.
Well, is a PC talk for banking?
Yes.
Racing PC talk. Oh, yes. Anyways, it is a cool track. It does have its place, but its place is this race. And this race is on TNT, Mark. As we discussed, for some reason, you're looking at it on TSN. But TNT in America, it's all about drama. They know drama, Mark. You ever seen Law and Order? They have that. That's drama right there. I don't know what else they had. I remember watching The Crow on TNT once. I think that was the first time I saw The Crow. I think it was during a NASCAR race or after a NASCAR race. Anyways.
But since the TNT broadcast, we have an amazing booth. We've got Wally Ballenbach, Benny Parsons, and Bill Weber calling the shots, doing the play-by-play. Solid booth.
Oh, super solid. And on pit road, backing them up, we have Dave Burns, Alan Bestwick, and Matt Yoakum. They are getting the word for us on pit road because there's a lot of words that we need to get on the grounds, and they're doing a great job. So
they're going to play a large role. This was the first year I think Bestwick got moved back to pit road. He was in the booth in 2004, and Weber was on pit road, I believe. And then I think this was the first time where we had Alan out of the booth and back on.
Yeah, I think there was a few races where there was some back and forth where Alan was on pit road and they had Bill in the booth. But yeah, this was like a solid year. It was a big change. It was weird. I liked Alan Bestwick in the booth a lot. Bill Weber was good though. I think Bill also paid his dues. He was in the business for a very long period of time and was always the guy on pit road, the guy who would start the race, doing the pre-race show, hosting that, doing the interviews, just being that light entertainment there. You know, I don't think a lot of people saw him as being the play-by-play guy, or being not so necessarily the play-by-play guy, but being the host, the actual like host of the entire event. So pretty big move. I don't know, Mark, do you think he did a good job in his time?
I think he was fine. I had no issue with Bill Weber in the booth, but yeah.
I mean, it's ironic because
I love Alan Bestwick though.
You like Alan Bestwick?
I love Alan Bestwick in everything that he does, and he was great on pit road. So I think he was just more like nimble than Bill Weber, and like, I don't know, maybe I made that up.
I don't know. Like, you know, here's the thing. Like, Bill Weber will always be the play-by-play guy because he's enshrined in Talladega Nights, man.
It's true. Yeah.
He's in that 3.
But of course, none of this will count. But yeah, we had 2 different booths in that movie, didn't we?
They showed both
because they showed Fox and NBC.
Yeah,
that's right. See, the realism in that film does not get its, you know,
it doesn't even to the point when they're doing the throwback scenes. I know they're not at the correct tracks, but to paint the right logos on the wall, spot on.
Brilliant.
Anyways, yes, you don't have to look that up because we already did. And a very important note going into this race specifically, race day note, the track is very greasy. It's very green. It had rained overnight. All the rubber has been washed away. All the oil and every bit of residue is kind of like seeped up onto the top of the racing surface. So this is not the most ideal conditions for racing. So there will be a competition caution early on, and the teams are going to have to really worry about that. They can't adjust for it, Mark, because it's your favorite period, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Impound.
That's right. No happy hour practice. You qualify, lock your cars up, can't touch them. So if you want to go for the pole, you're probably not going to have a very good car the first few laps because you're set up for qualifying. So this is pretty interesting stuff. And a lot of people didn't care. Like, a lot of people were just like, okay, I just got to like run a decent lap because I want my car set up for the race. Right. So it really put some stress on those teams, like at the back of the field, that like needed to qualify on speed, because they'd be like, oh man, we got to put a qualifying setup on this car. And then, you know, you'd see them putt around at the back for a bit, hopefully stay on the lead lap, and then make a wholesale of changes on their pit stops. But this is also back when the competition caution, you have to come down pit road and change tires and look at degradation. It's not like now where you don't want to come down, you don't have to. But back then, you had to. But so we have to mention. Go ahead. You go ahead.
I was going to say, we have to mention is 43 drivers will compete for the victory today, but only 10 drivers.
10 of them matter.
10 of them will compete for the championship, and every one of them matters. It's not just the 10, but we have to highlight them. Man, the chase was fresh. It was something different when we were younger.
It was exciting. It was like we had this new format. It's only the second year of it, where we're gonna reset the points after 26 races and let these 10 guys have a shootout.
The 10 best, someone who might have been mired back in the points, didn't really have the best starts of the season, or might have stumbled a little bit, making a comeback, a resurgence, a chance for a close championship battle, dude. Like, this was really exciting. This was interesting at this time period. I think definitely the hangover of the Matt Kenseth season still lingered on even at this point too. Mm-hmm. People felt it. So, but it was nice, dude. I love the chase, especially even going into season 2. But first season, dude, taking 10 of the best, like you said, having them compete for 10 races in what was like a playoff format, but not really a playoff format. It was great. It was one of the most captivating seasons of the sport. And it was a really great way not only to introduce Nextel as a sponsor, but this concept of the chase for the Nextel Cup. Just crazy. I mean, we saw underdogs jump to the top of the point standings. Comebacks were real. And of course, you could only expect the unexpected, man. Like, in those 10 races when I was a kid, I just remember being blown away. At some point, I want to actually sit down and watch those 10 races consecutively and really relive it, because there was so many just highlights from that stretch. I mean, just starting off, you had Mayfield winning at Richmond to make his way into the chase. Then, of course, your boy Robbie Gordon had to pay back Greg Biffle, who ended up just taking out Mayfield and Tony Stewart, basically just took them out of the championship for good. Matt Kenseth monster jam at Dover on pit road, just smashing into that tire. I mean, when Jeff Gordon crashed at Lowe's, I thought he was done. He finished second that day. Insane. Dale Jr. got fined for that expletive he used in Victory Lane. I mean, we had Kurt Busch just blow an engine out of nowhere in Atlanta. It looked like he was going to walk away with the championship. Then Jimmy Johnson went on a winning streak. I think he won 4 out of 5. But come on, Kurt Busch losing that wheel at Homestead and then somehow winning the championship.
Yeah, that's one of the craziest things that's ever happened in the history of sports. The fact that if the wheel comes off a couple feet later and doesn't go out on track, he doesn't win the championship. And that 2004 championship, James, was decided by 8 points. 8 points. And that last race at Homestead was a banger. Won by Greg Biffle, who was not in the chase that year. But the time's second closest championship in NASCAR Cup Series history. And luckily, James, they didn't change it for 2005. We got the same format in 2005. And let's talk about the chase field for 2005. So like we said, top 10 drivers and points. Points get reset. They get separated by 5 points. Leader gets, I think, was it 5,045, and then it works its way down by 5 points. So it's heavily in Roush's favor. Roush has 5 cars in the chase, all 5 of them. That was back when you're allowed to have 5 full-time teams, and you could even run a 6th car if you wanted to. So 5 full-time teams, and there's actually like the only other team that had multiple cars was Penske. So Penske had Rusty Wallace and Ryan Newman, who just snuck in at the end. And Rusty Wallace, man, was 3rd in points at the time they reset. He was having a baller year and had announced that he was retiring at the end of the year, which he then later regrets because he had an amazing season. Joining them in the chase are championship favorites Tony Stewart from Joe Gibbs Racing, Jimmy Johnson, the only Hendrick car, and Jeremy Mayfield from Evernham. And, you know, a lot of people don't think Mayfield's really a severe threat for the championship, but, you know, the man made it. His team was the top 10. He was 7th in points. Like, they didn't have a lot of great finishes, but he had that win in Michigan on fuel mileage. We actually reviewed that race way back when. You can go back and listen to that one. Crazy race. Scott Riggs finishes 2nd. Incredible race. But yeah, so, you know, you can't count any of them out. You know, like Tony Stewart gets a little bit of an advantage because he got, you know, the extra points for being in first. But after the first race, it's like kind of a toss-up, man. It's like anybody's. If you win the first race, you can jump from 10th to 2nd in points, you know, so depending how it goes. So it's a pretty crazy format. And to me, James, it was the perfect format. It really was. It was the perfect format, Mark, except there was one man missing from that 10 chaser field right there. His name was Jeff Gordon. All right. And he was in a battle for, no, he didn't. And Jeff, he was in a battle for number one with the number 1. It was the battle for 11th. Okay. Yes, 2005 sucked a big fat one. If you were a Jeff Gordon fan like myself, sure, you got to see Super G capture his 3rd Daytona 500 victory in February. He raised hell and not the racetrack in Martinsville in March. Came from 3 laps down to win that race. Used the force to own the field at Talladega in April. But then you had to realize at Richmond in September that Jeff Gordon could miss the chase, which he did in just a horrible fashion. Again, like another miserable Richmond fall race. Just like what's going on here? Anyways, yeah, it really did suck. But there was a lot of moments that did sting throughout the season that you just look back on to look at that moment in Richmond and be like, man, what could have been? What could have been if, you know, Jeff Gordon didn't get turned by Tony Stewart at Dover? What happens if, you know, he doesn't go multiple laps down early with a good car at Indy? You know, what happens if he doesn't lose a tire in the closing laps at Bristol in the spring, you know, or even the Sting? What happens if he just doesn't have a top 25 car on these intermediate tracks where his teammates are going out there and winning? I mean, it just, the points add up
And throughout that season, he just didn't have enough points for when everything reset. So because of Jeff Gordon and other drivers like Dale Earnhardt Jr., Elliott Sadler, Jamie McMurray, and even Kevin Harvick, there was a race for 11th now with a $1 million purse up for grabs. That's right. You didn't win the whole championship. You're still going to get $1 million for finishing 11th.
And you got honored at the banquet at the end.
That's true. 11th. You got remembered.
Usually by satellite, but you still got honored. You know. So,
I thought you could also physically go there, but I'll have to double check that because I know Jeff didn't go for his. But
that's one I'm thinking of, yeah. But yeah, Crazy Dale Jr. didn't make it either. A year after winning 6 races, 2004, and just having a crazy season.
He did have a crazy season.
He got. That was the year he had Steve Meal as his crew chief, and Tony Eury Jr. went to Michael Waltrip's car, and then Michael Waltrip was really fast and won a pole at Pocono, and Dale Jr. was not fast. So
yeah,
weird year for him. Was that so speaking of Jeff Gordon, was that the worst season of his career?
I think it was, because he still won races, man.
But I mean, like points finish wise.
I'm not 100% sure because I don't think
he ever finished outside of the top 10 until then.
I think 2010 he might have finished outside of the top 10 because that was another winless year.
Yeah, he did win 4 races. He won both Martinsvilles, the 500, and at Talladega.
Yeah, he had a good year. I mean, and you look at his average finish. He had a really great average finish. It just when it mattered to get to that playoff position or the chase position, he unfortunately just could not overcome those hurdles that were set forth early on in the season. So just a bummer, man. You know, he could have really shook some stuff up in the playoffs. But, you know, to your point too about Rusty Wallace, he's at this point in the season, man, he's like, why we got to reset the points? Just let's keep going. Because he would have had a really good finishing position either way. Just because he's Rusty Wallace, he's crafty at the end of the season.
He didn't win a race at all in 05 for Rusty Wallace.
No, but
just consistent,
which is ironic because at times he would get beaten by consistency, even if he was like dominant and go through stretches, just because he would have inconsistent weeks, or when he was successful or had a good week, like winning, who was second, his rival, the guy he had to beat massively to really gain points, and he couldn't. So that's what really the chase brings out. So it brings out that even playing field. So
one more fun fact first, James. One more quick fun fact.
Yeah.
This is the first race for Jeff Gordon with crew chief Steve Letarte, who would be his crew chief for, I believe, the next 10 years.
26-year-old Steve Letarte.
Yes. Robbie Loomis left the team and went back to Richard Petty Motorsports to be the competition director. So
yeah, it was announced early in the season that was going to happen. So basically what they did was Robbie didn't leave Hendrick at that point. He stayed on and was an advisor, at least for the 48 team through the end of the year. Chad at least saw value in Robbie being within the organization, at least until the end of the year. But yeah, he went back home to the Petties. That's where he got his start. He even won with Bobby Hamilton in the Petty organization. So he just went back home, went to be where he felt like his heart was. So that's a pretty good opportunity too, because 2006, they got Bobby Labonte behind the wheel of that 43 car. And I would say a pretty competitive period for that team. If you could agree, Mark, I don't know.
I would agree. They just added a different driver and things kind of went a little up for them. Still not super competitive, but he definitely helped quite a bit. So.
That it did bring some life over there into the Petties. I know. Take a breath, man. Take a breath. We're gonna talk about this race now. All right. We're talking about the incidents. All right.
Let's talk about some incidents. Doesn't take long.
No. How about lap 3? Just before you can get your 3 hand up in the air in turns 1 and 2, we got some tough racing early on. Scott Riggs, he qualified 5th. Like Mark said, you just gotta sometimes set that thing up for the pole. You got a good quick car for a few laps. Get a good qualifying position out of it. Well, Riggs is in 5th, and he's stuck on the bottom, and he's losing a lot of positions. Now, Kurt Busch, a chaser, well-highlighted chaser, won the last race at Richmond, coming into New Hampshire. He's on the outside groove, and he's making up positions, and it seems like the outside's where you need to be. He started in 12th, and he's motoring his way up. Now, while Busch makes his way around the number 10, Riggs gets loose on the bottom, and he needs to chase that car all the way up the track into the 97, and Kurt is going to spin that thing all the way around and nose it into the turn 2 wall. Kurt he's done, man, with the flowing smoke and the fluid pouring. The 97 machine is basically toast, man. You can just tell Kurt's chances of contending for today are over. And now the team needs to salvage Kurt's championship hopes. So you immediately have to go back, Mark, in the annals of time to Indy of 2005. Scott Riggs is running really competitively in that race. Him and Kurt Busch make contact. Riggs gets the short end of it, gets knocked out of the Brickyard 400. So here's what's interesting. Kurt drove back to the garage, got out of his car, didn't have to be assessed to go to the infield care center, and goes and talks to Rodney Childress, dude. Why do you go and talk to Rodney? Rodney doesn't drive the car. He's just a crew chief.
He's frustrated and he wants an explanation. He just wants to know if it was intentional for the payback in Indy, because as he says, this is not the place to pay someone back. First race of the chase.
It isn't, but that's where the spotter needs to come in and be like, hey, man, he just got loose underneath you. Like the spotter could tell
but
that.
Your spotter goes to bat for you most of the time, man. You ever heard a spotter admit they were wrong or admit it was something wasn't a mistake?
That is true, but you should also try to
turned us. Oh, he just came up into us. It's like,
that's true, but you should also try to diffuse the situation a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyways, either way, Rodney and Kurt, they have a little discussion. I guess Kurt hears what he wants to hear and he leaves. And the next thing you know, the mob that followed Kurt to the 10 box needs to follow Kurt away from the 10 box. And unfortunately for Rodney Childress, he gets some unwanted TV time. Poor Rodney. He didn't want any drama. He was just trying to do his job and be a crew chief. But hey, if you didn't know, that's Rodney Childress. It's a very young Rodney Childress right there. Most people don't.
Winning crew chief, Rodney Childress.
Yeah, future Cup Series championship crew chief. Yes. Just getting an earful of Kurt Busch right there.
Kurt Busch, defending champion, man. A lot of pressure on him. Had a good season. Won at Richmond the week prior. So, coming to the chase on momentum to have it just kind of, Kurt says, you got to come from behind every week now. That's the thing.
Yeah, he gave some good sound bites there, on his walk to and from the pit box. But Mark, while all that was going on, the repair clock was just getting started. That's right. Kurt Busch, he drove that 97 back to the garage area, allowing for a swarm of Roush Racing personnel to go to work on the number 97. TNT displays his clock in the corner, and I think this is really great because it gives the fans an opportunity to really understand how quickly these crew members are working and repairing not only just like body work, the fenders and the hood and some of the front bumper valence pieces, but also going and putting in ducting, putting in new pumps, new radiators. They're going full service on this thing, and they do a great job. They do this thing in 44 minutes and 47 seconds. Great job by the entire Roush team, and that was a lot of members from all 5 Roush teams in there. You saw different sponsor shirts all over the front of that 97 car, man. That was a really great job. And it doesn't look that bad back out on the track.
Yeah, it's going pretty quick. It's meeting minimum speed. It's all that matters. And they're just out there trying to pick up as many positions as they can. I believe they're, how many laps down were they? They're 40 something laps down, 50 something laps down. Yeah.
About that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
in the end, they're about like 60 something laps down when it all cycles out.
Because I think they finished 34th at the end of the race. So they picked up 7 or 8 positions.
Exactly. They went from 43rd to, 34th. So that's something.
Yeah, and every point counts. Like we said, the prior season, Kurt Busch won the championship by 8 points. So you never know when that's going to happen. But out on track, now the spotters are going to start warning the drivers, Jeremy Mayfield's especially, that heads up, 97's back on track and he has a beef with the 10. So just be careful, don't be near those guys because they might end up wrecking. And Jeremy Mayfield had that happen the prior year in New Hampshire. So,
hey, just a testament to how fast that 97 car is out there. You could probably go past the 10 car. The 10 car is really faded from his 5th place qualifying position. Now, Mark, that situation, that wasn't, like we said, malicious, nothing ill-willed about it. 10 car just got loose under 97. Plain and simple.
Yeah. He just got loose under him. It wasn't malicious at all. It's going to happen. It's first of many to come. The track's very green. We said it's rained all night. There's no grip. Guys just getting loose on the bottom. It's just how it is. And they're going to ride up into guys. It's hard to race side by side. It's going to happen. And it just, just tagged him at the wrong point. It wasn't intentional. It was just, these things happen. It is what it is, as Juan Pablo Montoya would say.
It is what it is. Unfortunate that, it got blown a little more out of proportion than it should have. But you know what? Hey, it's selling tickets, isn't it? I guess it's grabbing viewers. Moving forward, lap 165. Now, Mark, it has been 146 laps since the race resumed after the whole Kurt Busch, Scott Riggs incident. And since then, there have been 4 other cautions for on-track incidents, cycles of pit stops, a lot of drama for the chasers. I mean, couldn't script this. And we even had a Miller race fact thrown in there too. Beautiful. Did you know what that race fact was?
I can't remember. Refresh my memory.
Well, to refresh your memory, 5 out of the 10 drivers in the chase have won a Nextel Cup race at New Hampshire. That's a fact. That's a good fact right there. That means that it's pretty much wide open for anyone in that chase field to come home with the victory.
But now coming off turn 2, lap 165, Kyle Busch is running at 14th. Rookie, Cup Series, rookie, Kyle Busch makes contact with Casey Kane, who's running 13th, who's in his sophomore Cup season, sends Kane into the outside wall, turns that car into a hatchback. And yeah, that's a destroyed race car for Casey Kane. And frame's all bent, it's crabbing down the straightaway. And
it looks like a crab.
Yeah, there's not going to be any crash clock because they're done for the day. That's not going to be repairable. Kane slowly makes his way back to the pits as if he's waiting for someone, James. And that somebody was Kyle Busch, who gets another close-up view as the 9. This Kane turns his car hard right into the number 5, all of which is unfolding in front of chase competitor Jimmy Johnson, who wants no part of this. And now when Casey Kane's interviewed about the incident, all he says, he's like, well, I was taken out. And, he also referred to Dale Jarrett and Ryan Newman's incident at Bristol that fall as an example of how to retaliate, right? He's like, you know what? I was taken out. Best thing to do, take them out, ruin their day as well. An eye for an eye, James.
Eye for an eye.
And after Casey Kane's interview, Alan Gustafson, Kyle Busch's crew chief, he's interviewed about the situation because we can't talk to Kyle because he's driving. No. So let's talk to the man talking to Kyle, right? Just so we talk to Childers, let's hear from Gustafson.
Yeah.
And he didn't appreciate that Casey Kane tore up their race car and said he should come spend a few hours at the Hendrick body shop. It sounded like an open invitation, but, what could have been?
He could have been a Hendricks sooner. I mean, he could have been just working in the body shop, and it's like, hey, we like Casey. Let's give him a shot in our race car. But
eventually,
open invitation, dude. That situation. Now, it might have been hard racing that could have led to frustration. Hard racing that just led to a slip up or a mistake. Like we said, this is rookie Kyle Busch, sophomore Casey Kane. Casey's probably feeling frustrated because he's supposed to be top dog at Everham, and his teammate made the playoff chase, and Casey didn't. And Casey won a race at Richmond, so not doing good for his sophomore year. A lot of frustration compounding over into New Hampshire, dude. I feel like he's just a little frustrated and let his anger get a little bit of the better of him in this situation.
These things happen, Just the way it goes. And, I don't know if I agree with Casey Kane's like eye for an eye type thing. Obviously, Benny Parsons wasn't a fan of that. He was kind of getting annoyed up in the booth that all this retaliation was happening. But I don't know, man. I'm never a fan of tearing up race cars because guys work hard on them. Mm-hmm. You know what? Just like get out of the cars after the race, just sell it in the parking lot. If you need to fight over it, just, throw hands and dust each other off and go for a beer after, that's settle it that way. As Boris said, it's not right to wreck cars. I
don't know, dude. Dale Jarrett's like payback of Ryan Newman was that was perfect. Just like took him out perfectly. Just saying. It's really good. Casey got a good point there. Anyways, it wasn't a malicious incident. It shouldn't have, caused grounds for that. But I think the what's lost of this whole confrontation, Mark, is the fact that Alan Gustafson openly invited Casey Kane to Hendrick Motorsports, and he didn't take him up on that opportunity.
Come by, work in our body shop,
Maybe he'll drive our race cars.
Maybe.
You never know. Now, lap 191. It's been 30 laps since that final incident, Mark. We've enjoyed a good bit of racing. In fact, we had the Little Debbie lap leader breakdown up on the screen, enjoying that. And then we're interrupted by a car on the wall. No, wait. How about two cars in the wall? It's the number 01 of Joe Nemechek and the number 0 of our boy, Mike Bliss. That sucks because Nemechek was running 5th and Bliss was running 8th, man. Two cars in the top 10, top 5, done. And oh no, Robbie Gordon. He's in the wall, man. He was running with Michael Waltrip. We saw that during the Little Debbie's lap leader breakdown. We noticed he wanted to move underneath Waltrip. He was running 5th, man. Robbie's crashed hard. What's up with that, Eric?
I remember this. They like, we saw the incident and then they just cut like to the next shot and Robbie Gordon's car is torn up, the front end and the back end.
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened? And my heart sank as a 15-year-old watching this. And
it still hits.
It's clearly destroyed. They think he's going to try and drive it back, but he can't turn the car. And a few moments passed and we get a replay. And to me, it looks like he just got dumped by Michael Waltrip under caution. And, Michael made a hard left there and he just turned Robbie into the wall. A few moments go by and now it really starts to unfold. What we all remember starts to unfold. And it would appear that Robbie, so first he tries to reverse into Michael's car as he drives by and he misses. So he gets out of the car and it looks like he wants to give his helmet to someone. And that someone is Michael Waltrip. So, it's a solid shot, but he misses the window net. But you know what? It's still a good toss at point blank range. He put force behind it and total disregard of Tony Stewart, who's right behind it, almost runs the helmet over and he's fighting for the win. He also has to avoid Robbie walking back across the track. And man, let's get slow motion now. God, it's like you said, he just looks like a man walking away from exploding. Like, cool guys don't look at explosions.
Oh, yeah. Deal. Like, who cares about this race car like behind me?
But the best part of the whole thing is when Michael Waltrip from the in-car ducks to avoid the helmet despite being behind a window net. And
he's in a race car.
Amazing. He's like, whoa! I probably would have done the same thing. If Robbie Gordon threw a helmet at me, I'd be honored. So,
yeah,
because I'd be like, Robbie Gordon knows who I am.
With the power of Kenny Powers, you see those hips? That could decapitate a man.
Body behind that one, man.
Decapitate. So. Robbie Gordon takes your head off with a skull bucket. Now, Mark, interesting move here. NASCAR would display the red flag and park the entire field on pit road during this caution. So this caution turns into a red flag, during which Robbie Gordon gets to go on TV as he's interviewed right after the incident with Michael Waltrip. And he says, you know what, Michael isn't quote unquote the nice guy, and that he wrecked him under caution. And he's going on to say, of course, Michael Waltrip is a piece of poopy poop poop pop poop 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 pop. Just a bunch of censored words that definitely didn't get censored on TV. We all heard that live. Like, that lives on in infamy. Robbie Gordon said that word on television didn't get bleeped. That's just so funny.
It's in the YouTube version we watched too. It's not censored.
Yeah, because it's like I think it was censored on the version I watched, and it was just so funny because he's like, did he just say the S word? And it's like, you didn't know, and then you finally hear it all these years later. It's like, yeah, all he said was the S word. So what? But still a big deal.
Driver and owner of the 7 car to the NASCAR hauler, which is hilarious because Robbie Gordon is both the driver and the owner. So
it's a busy day at the NASCAR hauler. At least they're gonna have to
take
one body out of it.
Pick a number when you show up. Yeah,
exactly. Now here's the thing. We're under caution now, red flag condition. So it's different than the Casey Kane situation because we couldn't talk to Kyle Busch, but Mark, we can talk to Michael Waltrip because we're under red flag. So thanks to the technology that TNT had, let's hear from Michael Waltrip.
Hey, Michael, BP, you got me?
Yes, sir, BP. How's everything up in the old TNT booth or whatever it is?
You're right, Michael. It is TNT, and it's doing well up here, but it's craziness on the racetrack. Your version, what happened off turn 2?
Well, Robbie just drove down in the corner like I wasn't even there and shoved me all the way up to the edge of the groove, and I kept giving, and as we exited turn, short of me just driving the Domino's Pizza Napa Auto Parts Best Western Chevy into the wall, I had to finally stand my ground, Benny, and when I did, it hooked him and wrecked him. But he drives like he's in the desert or something.
I put you down in the desert there on the infield, and when he threw the helmet at you, we noticed on the onboard camera you ducked.
Well, I ain't no fool. I didn't know where. I never had that happen to me before. So I decided I would just smash the gas and duck and hope for the best. But I respect these cats I race against, and he just acted like I wasn't even there, and I just stood my ground, Benny.
All right, Mike, just want to let you know, in his interview, he said that it was your fault.
Well, it's half my fault. I agreed to come out here and race with him.
All right, Mikey, thanks, buddy.
They have refired the engines, and they will put the cars back out on the track.
He does give us a great quote about this being half of his fault because he did agree to come out and race with Robbie today. So he does take fault for his own,
The issue is that's 100% his fault. So that's the thing. If you watch that ISO that they show, like, it's clear that Robbie got loose underneath him and got up into him, which has been happening all day. And Robbie's an aggressive race car driver, and they've been side by side for a few laps. Makes contact, and I think Michael just didn't appreciate it, and he's turned him into the wall. And sometimes you lose your temper. I get it. Yeah, Robbie was running top 5 in a year where he'd had a horrible season.
And you know what? I agree that. And, Michael Waltrip had a horrible season too. So that point, he's having a horrible year.
He actually had one of the best seasons of his recent. It's going to be a lot better in 2006. So.
And that's the thing. It's like he was in a contract year. He was in a period where he didn't know what he was going to do. He loved his team, but he didn't have the results. Like 2005, he had great cars, but didn't have results. And this was another case of having a great run with a great car, great strategy. And then Robbie frickin' Gordon comes and doors him in turns 2 for a position that he doesn't have the spot for yet. Yes, he is faster than the 15. Yes, Michael should have let him go, but he didn't. And Michael should have had a better head on his shoulders instead of turning him. But Mark, if you look at the in-car for Michael Waltrip, he just had to itch his shoulder and then he just spun out, man. And who happened to be below him? Robbie Gordon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on his shoulder, dude. Like, look at his in-car.
What we got out of this was the following week at Dover, one of the most awkward NASCAR trackside lives on Friday night, where they had Robbie Gordon and Michael Waltrip both on.
Not only that, they had them both on with the helmet that Robbie Gordon
and they signed the helmet, both of them, and then they auctioned it off
on eBay for charity.
I think the company that bought it for like $13,000 or something like that, and it all went to charity.
Pennies on the dollar. Pennies.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So interesting. And then apparently, like, Michael Waltrip actually offered Robbie Gordon a race car from his shop to make up for what happened and like apologize to him. And then by the end of the season, Robbie had DEI motors in his cars. So, it all worked out. Everyone was happy.
Yeah. I feel like the DEI motor thing was just coincidental, but here's the big thing.
First race with the DEI motor at Phoenix, he finished 8th. So
I know it was a positive. I think that was more of a John Menard move. Just because like Menard, DEI.
If Robbie Gordon, I'll say it right now, if Robbie Gordon had competent motors in 2005, he would have won 2 races.
I think competent motors was half the battle. The other half was like, teething pains with like a new team. And then definitely, they were way better than their results though, man.
Oh,
it is. Yeah. They had performance, but dude, it's no secret. NASCAR had it out for them. Like straight up.
100%. But if they had competent motors at Michigan, he'd have won that August race probably. Or sorry, the June race. He probably would have won that race.
I think he would have got top 5, but he would have won the pole possibly. I mean, you just saw it. Like that team had flashes of brilliance, like you're saying there. He just motored to the front. If he had a decent motor, he could have contended for the Coke 600 towards the end there. He was.
God, we could do a whole podcast on me, just like my malaise of like my Robbie Gordon fandom of like crap that happened to him when they had a really good race car. But we'll get back to the situation at hand. And now, James, NASCAR is going to hand down some communication here.
Yes.
They're going to let all the teams know that they need to settle down. NASCAR will park those in the future if they do not settle down. So 0 tolerance for the rest of the race. No more boys have at it. If you retaliate against another driver, you will be parked.
Now, here's the thing. The race would restart on lap 202. So basically we're like 2/3 of the way through this hockey game, if you want to really be technical about it. Now, there were only 5 more laps run under caution from the remaining 98 laps in this event. And those laps were because of debris. Okay. So Mark, I'm telling you, whatever NASCAR just said must have struck the core of these drivers. And you know what? They played nice for the rest of the race just because of what NASCAR said. Thank you, NASCAR. Whatever you did in timeout helped. Heck, I think Matt Kenseth had the best reaction to what NASCAR's message was. I mean, it's just beautiful.
Who are you talking to? Just everybody?
All 43 men driving those machines.
Okay. I've never been on a behavioral timeout in a race before, especially when I don't even have any clue what's been going on. I haven't seen anything. But okay.
And there was a little humor when NASCAR told the drivers to refire the engine. Matt came out and said, Robbie, you're not going to believe this. The guy who sang the national anthem, he just told us to crank him up. That, of course, was official Billy Burkheimer.
Just the fact that he genuinely had no idea what was going on is just hilarious. It's like, what?
Yeah, he's like running his own race. It really proves how many races there are within a race.
And that's the thing is like, so you're doing your thing. You have no idea what's going on in the rest of the race, right?
No.
Like,
but
it's
someone like
Tony, it's like when you and I go to a race and we work a race, half the time we don't have any idea what's happening. No. Because you're doing your own thing, right?
Well, so, you're only looking at what's in front of you. I mean, like look at a guy like Tony Stewart. Yeah. He had to look at Robbie Gordon's incident. Probably had to look at a couple other incidents. Jimmy Johnson had to be confronted with a couple incidents as well. And specifically for a guy like Stewart, he goes through the ringer a little bit. Kenseth doesn't really have to deal with any of this stuff. They finished 2nd and 3rd in this event. Like just so crazy how it all works out. But it's all about what happens and unfolds in 300 miles around the magic mile. 300 miles and yet 2 totally different races. So, Mark, it's really a shame that NASCAR had to be so authoritative during this race, threatening drivers to make sure that the product was just clean and it was just odd to see this revealed. It was like the fourth wall was brought down. And the producers from NBC and TNT just loved it. The producers in the truck were just like, yes, plug that audio feed in there now. We need to hear the radio communication. Like it was just something else. So we definitely got to see some juicy side of NASCAR in this event.
We did. It was an interesting race. And that's the thing we have to now discuss, James, is what did we learn from this event? We didn't even talk about really any of the racing. It was a good race. Go watch it. We won't tell you who won. Go watch it.
Yeah, it's worthwhile to watch. The whole storyline of how this it impacts the chase layout is really great. And without the stupid drama of like, oh no, you got wrecked out and all this other BS. So it's really good. Mark, I think the biggest thing I learned is how much NASCAR really controls the product. For what they did back then, they're really in charge of what's going on.
It's true. Yes. We forgot to mention Robbie Gordon got fined 50 driver points, 50 owner points, and a hefty monetary fine for saying the S word on TV. So, yeah. I don't think anybody else got fined any points or anything.
No one. I mean, nothing else was really that bad, probably, in the greatest. Here's the thing. Everything was its own incident. Like, Casey Kane could have been probably fined in his incident, but then Robbie Gordon had to go and top that. Like,
I think a lot of it has to do with your history as well. I think it's like Casey Kane didn't really have a history of doing that. They're like, oh, it's one time. If you have a pattern of doing, if you're Robbie Gordon, you have a pattern of not thinking before you do things, they're not going to put up with it. You know?
Yeah, no. And that's what happened.
I think we learned that NASCAR drivers' emotions run high, James, especially the first race of the chase. Even though how many chase drivers were involved in this? Only one was involved.
I think part of that fuel is like the whole, 43 drivers in this field, but only 10 that matter. Like that.
And I think that really pushes a lot of the guys that are out of it to try and win. Like Joe Nemechek won at Kansas in 2004. Jeff Gordon won it. He's going to win at Martinsville later that season, or to take a win away from one of the chase guys. So,
well, I mean, there's a lot of incidents too with that. I mean, Joe Nemechek running so well, Mike Bliss was running really well, Robbie Gordon, Michael Waltrip.
That zero car really came on at the end of the year there and just had so much bad luck. But it's
we were all waiting for the real. Go ahead.
This is when guys are talking about like contracts, right? This is when silly season's starting to wind down and guys are driving for jobs the following year, like
not only winding down, but like silly season's definitely 100% in effect. Like silly season's legit. It's
like in the NFL, when teams are eliminated from playoffs and the guys are literally just playing for their jobs at the end of the year, hoping to get signed next season. And that's the same thing for these drivers that are out of the top 10. A lot of them are really like, man, I got to show what I have because I want a job next year. So that could really, be a part of why it's happened. But really, it just comes back to, just kind of being a green racetrack and guys getting loose and getting antsy and, no happy hour practice or anything. They haven't driven the car since Friday. Things happen,
I think it's just racing, man. And I think that NASCAR...
It's just one of them racing deals, James. It's one of them racing deals.
The whole thing was a racing deal. I think NASCAR just kind of blew it out of proportion in times. And, there was a little bit of carnage and unnecessary wrecking. But, that doesn't need to be... The dirty laundry didn't need to be aired across everyone's channel. It was just an incident that was isolated. And that's where it should have stayed. Because really, it's like... The thing that makes this race like so synonymous with being an incident-prone race is Robbie Gordon's incident. Like, it's just Robbie Gordon's incident. So what? Who cares? Like, Casey Kane had a little meltdown. I mean, like, we understand Casey's frustration. Like, to our points, like, yeah, this whole chase thing. But it's just interesting how this whole race is perceived a little bit, and it's mainly because of NASCAR's narrative and spin on it. So. They control the race. They control the narrative as well, Mark. It's NASCAR.
So yeah, pretty solid race to go back and watch. Highly recommended. Who uploaded this one?
Someone uploaded it. So thank you to someone. Thank you to Dave W, because Dave W is always a host of amazing vintage motorsports content, classic stuff. Everything from NASCAR, NHRA, and what's the best? He's got those odd shows like Trackside Lives and Inside NASCAR, Inside Winston Cup, like all those little tidbits Mark and I talk about that we watched during the week that are able to be viewed. His channel's got him, so go check him out. And his version of this race actually includes the pre-race show, and it's a quality upload. It's got like HD written all over it, so if you pop it up on a big TV. Ooh, it looks so nice. It's a Sony HD on there. It's so nice. Yeah, this was good to look back, mainly just at this specific part of the event, just the incidents.
It's cool to talk about more specific things like that than just kind of run down a race and be like, and then on lap 75, a caution happens. It's better to just kind of be like, hey, this is an interesting race. Let's talk about all the retaliations that happened. So, yeah,
because that's the thing. It's like the narrative of this race is kind of spun in that direction. And let's focus on that narrative. Let's just, highlight that, because there's a lot going on in this race. I mean, still, it has a lot of replay value for other reasons other than just the incidents or the paybacks or whatever you want to call it. So this was a great addition to the podcast, having incidents. We'll definitely have to look back at, another race probably in this era, an era where we both watched the race. So we kind of get to look back at it. So it's kind of really cool. So yeah, we'll definitely have to do this again soon, Mark, and in the future, we'll have more audio and video versions of our podcast. So be on the lookout for the Flashback to the Track podcast. As always, we're presented by Blue Emu, providing maximum strength relief for tired muscles and joints, whether you're sleeping in your car because you're just tired, or you're like Mark and I and you're running around the track taking photos of things. Work it into your regimen of recovery. Blue Emu. They make a plethora of products for all of your maximum
product, James. A microfoam product, brand new.
Yes, the new microfoam. That's a new one. I can't wait to get my hands on that at some point. Yeah, I saw them at Publix the other day too.
I saw it at Walmart. Almost bought some, but I already had some maximum strength at home, so I was stuck with that. But hopefully get our hands on that and the hemp product as well. I'd like to sample that. So lots of different stuff going on with Blue Emu, man. And obviously check out the stuff that James does on their social. The maximum strength move of the race every week. You can vote for it on the Blue Emu Twitter account at Blue Emu1. And we haven't run this down in a while. If you want to follow James on Twitter, you can follow your Twitter handle is at IWTB NASCAR, and on Instagram you can just search I Want to Believe NASCAR. You'll find James. If you want to follow myself, I'm at MUrbanVideo on everything, so you will find me easily there. So that's all for this week, and we will see you in the next episode of talking about old races and being nerds. Peace. Please cut out my terrible all cops are bad.